audio. There we go. There we go. Okay, guys. Hey, this is really awkward unless you just get up really quick and come to the front row. He's going to share. Expandi's an incredible bootstrap story. Seriously, stand up really quick and come to the front row. He'll share way more if we can like see your faces and like talk to you a little bit more. It'll be way more engaging and way more fun. So just trust me. Come to the front row. Come to the front row. Be way more fun. This is an incredible story because when I first saw this next speaker on my podcast, I said there's no way he's going to make it. And the reason I thought that is because everyone was building these cool tools on LinkedIn. I'm going, LinkedIn's going to shut all these tools down. I mean, there's like no way. I don't want to install these on my LinkedIn because I feel like there's like legal risk, etc. But sure enough, this guy keeps growing revenue, and I feel like for every $1 million of new ARR he adds, if you go to his Instagram, he adds like another ab, and now it's like 8 abs and $8 million of ARR. So like this all works together. Well, on that note, help me welcome to the stage Stefan from Expandi. Stefan, come on up. All right, you take this mic, you take this side.
Yeah. Thank you, Nathan, for having me.
Did I get that right? Something like that here.
Yeah, maybe this better. Right?
8 million in ARR and eight pack abs, right?
That are the facts, right?
They go together. They go together. Great. Well, look, we're going to spend 19 minutes together today and talk through Stefan's revenue growth. So again, this is a little bit of the revenue growth that you see here on the screen. We're going to break this down into 3 sections. So what worked from 0 to $3 million of revenue? What worked from sort of 3 to 6? And then he's at 8 now. What his plans are to go from 8 to over $10 million of revenue, and how much outside capital have you raised?
0.
So you still own 100% of the business, or you plus employees?
No, yeah, I have 2 co-founders, and
Okay.
we equally divided our equity, so 33% each.
So what happens when you guys disagree? Is there one guy or gal that's always the tiebreaker?
Yeah, the funny thing is that, yeah, of course, like everywhere else, we had a lot of fights during the years, but we still are best friends, and I think that is something we can be really proud of after 5 years of growing, struggling. And what actually nobody knows is that we failed a couple more startups. So it might look like sort of a bootstrapped overnight success right now, but it took us 10 years in the making before, and we are still together. So
we love that. Now I see some friendly faces in the audience. Are you on OMR reviews? Do you know?
Sorry?
Do you get reviews on the app exchanges, G2, Capterra, OMR reviews? Is that part of your growth strategy or no?
That is not the main focus.
Not a main focus. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Bridget, have you used Expandi before on your LinkedIn? Expandi customers level. Anyone else tested a LinkedIn tool for growth? Just raise your hand. Even if it's a competitor Expandi, that's okay. But what are you guys using? Oh, you're using Expandi. Amazing. Did you know he was doing this much revenue? Oh.
He joined my session, my previous session.
The secrets are out. The secrets are out. Well, look, before this, I said, Stefan, I want to give you the chance to just like focus on some of these 9 things that you're doing that I think are really unique and really interesting, that are also very easy to copy, right? They're sort of tactical, almost like popcorn that you can sort of eat. So we're excited that you guys are here. We're going to focus on, again, these 3 sections. Let's jump into section 1 here. So I said, Stefan, how have you gone from 0 to $3 million of revenue? And you said, Nathan, it's a heavy investment in content, but it's not just putting the playbook and the PDF together, which is what you guys see on the right side of the stage, but it's also how do you then package it in a story and put it on LinkedIn on the left side to get engagement. So walk us through this tactic.
Yeah, I think still up until today, this is by far our best performing strategy we are still leveraging. When we entered the space and we analyzed our competitors, everybody was somehow talking about growing and how to 10x your results, and that was the main thing our other competitors put on their side, but nobody was teaching the how and how to get there, with what strategies, with what tactics. So we decided to leverage our own tool and design the best out-of-the-box plays and strategies, and the ones which brought us the best results, we took them apart and we created a practical guides out of it, which people could immediately apply themselves. And we started to manually distribute these playbooks, because in the beginning we had no money, and up until 1 million in run rate we were not even thinking and did not have the knowledge about SEO optimization. So it was a manually distribution, mainly on LinkedIn, and yeah, we called it the sort of giveaway tactic, where we didn't post, where we started with the problem, where we explained the solution, and the results people could get if they leave a comment, and then we send it over the guide. And
just to push you on this though for a second, I imagine the audience is looking at this post up here on the right. They're saying, I don't see anything special. Like I see this all the time. I see posts that look just like this. How did this one get 1,100 comments and 654 engagements? Like are you using a LinkedIn pod, or is it gamification? Is there an ad running behind here that we don't know about? I mean, how did you drive this engagement on what looks like an average post?
Very interesting question, as I'm definitely not more special than all the other regular people on LinkedIn, and especially in these early days. I did not started with brand building yet. So except my wife, a couple of friends, and 11 colleagues,
you have 654 wives?
Was engaging on my content. So the trick here in the early days was that we were leveraging engagement pods, and it was the beginning of engagement pods, and they got so much traction that I actually felt already then like a rock star. But you are the real rock star, but I felt due to all the engagement already. But that's how we did it in the early days.
Raise your hand if you guys know what an engagement pod is or you're part of one. Raise your hand high. Yeah, this is like so I think people don't write about this publicly because they feel like it's sort of a dirty secret, but it's actually how the spaghetti gets made. And so, like, full disclosure, we also do this, and what it is effectively a WhatsApp group where I have recruited personally, and I got their cell phone numbers, other people, like Dirk at SaaS Group, for example. He's not in it, but an example would be, Dirk, I'd love to have you. People with big audiences on LinkedIn, large followers, you get them in the LinkedIn group. We'll do things like invite them to our Napa retreat for free. We pay for it. But we all know what's really happening, right? Is we're paying for it. We're losing money on Napa, but they're in their engagement pod. And the rule is you've got to go at least once per week. So everyone can post once per month.
Okay.
And then everyone in the engagement pod has to go engage at least once on that post. And it drives the initial burst of engagement, and the algorithm sort of takes off. How do your pods work?
We leveraged the ones from mainly Lampot in the early days, and it was the beginning of such pods started to exist, and I think up until 2 years ago we were still leveraging them. At the moment we don't do that anymore.
Yep. Let's keep growing here. So this also morphed its way into sort of finding these micro-influencers. How do you, a lot of people go, oh, we know who the influencers are in the space, but how do we get them to talk about us? How did you get these guys to talk about you?
Yeah, I always try to become friends with them. And the strategy we used was that I was analyzing especially who was talking about LinkedIn automation, what tool they were recommending. Then I was enriching all the data. I uploaded the CSV file in our own tool, Expandi, and then I was approaching them with a very soft approach and some dynamic personalization. Hey, I just finished reading your article about, and then the title on, and then I insert the website. And then I tried to start conversations with them. That I was also leveraging these tools before, but out of our own need and changes, and that they were maybe unsafe. I designed another tool, and I just wanted to get a feedback from a real growth pro like them, and that was how it started. But I think the trick is that you need to make sure that they're gonna use the tool, and that they really, because that's the only way how they become an advocate of your product.
Just to give you guys another piece of popcorn to chew on here, you guys saw me do this yesterday live on stage, but we're now, everyone who posted a picture, my team pinged and said, can we put ads behind this as a thought leader ad? It'll help grow your audience and my audience, right? But you have to get your audience to make the content first. So one way you could do is email your whole user list and say, next time you use our tool, if you record a screen share of you using that key feature you love and put it on LinkedIn, we'll put $500 of ad spend behind it. That's a pretty good incentive, right? You're gonna help grow their LinkedIn audience and you get social proof. So this is another way to sort of encourage this behavior. Let's jump in. You're 3 million ARR now. You wanna get up to 6, 7 million, and you use SEO, community, and a podcast playbook. Take us through the SEO strategy that took you from 0 to 60,000 hits per month.
Yeah, we did not have any knowledge within our team, so we started to cooperate with an external agency. And the first thing
Which agency did you use? Can you share?
Yeah, that time point, we did it with Qlidi.
Spell it.
Qulaiid. It's not going right, but I can write it later.
Okay, but you said back, so one thing I do want to touch on as you continue to tell the story, a lot of people go through a lot of agencies as they try and figure this stuff out. Are you still using agencies for this, or you move it in-house?
Partly. So
okay.
we are managing the strategy internally, and then we are hiring, let's say, contractors or external agencies to execute on the strategy.
I see. So what is the strategy they're executing here?
Yeah, if you don't start it with it yet, you can always fast have a quick wins, right? Because doing nothing and then start with optimizing it. But I think in the beginning, what they did really, really well was making, let's say, the top 10 best LinkedIn automation tools, or they try to include us in other articles to get more visibility in the SEO results. And these things already brought a lot of results. I think at the moment we have around 100K unique visitors each month. Inbound is still our main strategy. We are gaining around 2,000 new signups per month. We also lose a loss due to maybe reverse onboarding we had previously or so, but at least the inbound strategy worked by improving the SEO.
What does that look? So just since you touched on it, today in September of 2024, how many total free trials will Expandi have in the month?
Yeah, around 2,000 a month on average already for a while. So it's quite consistent, and I think 90, let's say up to 80 or 90% is coming from inbound.
SEO?
Exactly.
And how many of the 2,000 trials will convert to paid plan?
I think we lose 70%.
You lose 70%?
We lose 70%. And
of the trials?
Yeah.
So does that mean the other 30% convert to paid?
Yeah. Or at least to activate it, and eventually there will also drop a percentage of.
I see. So 30% of the 2,000 trials will activate.
Yeah.
So that's 600 out of the 2,000 will activate. And then some portion of the 600 that get active on Expandi will convert to paid.
Yeah, from a free trial to a paid.
I see.
To a paid.
So how many new customers are you adding per month about today?
I think around 100.
Okay, so there you guys have it, right? 2,000, 600, 100. Yeah. Conversion free to paid, PLG, bottoms up motion, 80% inbound from mainly Google SEO.
Exactly.
You also do a really good job with communities. Now, when people come in like some of my communities and they start promoting, I say, boot them, get the hell out. How do you get into all these communities, promote your stuff, and not piss off the organizers of the communities?
Yeah, at that moment, we did it mainly on Facebook communities, which were audiences who resonate with our main ICPs. And at that time point, it was obvious agency owners and growth marketers. So actually, everyone who is focused on LinkedIn strategies, LinkedIn outbound strategies. I always try to become friends with the admins, and I ask them if how I could bring value towards the community by be able to share maybe a practical use cases their audiences could leverage to do a better job on LinkedIn outreach. So that's how we did it. We always asked it, and also not the first day. Yep. And the trick there is that we applied the same strategy as we did on LinkedIn. So with the giveaway post. But the fun thing on Facebook was, in all these groups, that there was no automation, so we needed to follow up manually on all these 500 comments you see here on the screen. So it was quite time consuming.
One of the things that I think you did really well is you sort of, I call it elephant bumping. You start with a core asset of attention that you build, whether it's a community or whatever. You sort of bump that up into the next thing and the next thing, and before you know it, you have your own Facebook group with 5,000 members. Exactly. What was your original core sort of attention or community asset that you owned and operated directly?
We got somehow, at some point, people saw us as sort of the new CNN for LinkedIn lead generation, because we were the guys who invented all the tricks and the playbooks and the best hacks and the tactics. So people came to us not immediately to buy our software, but just to learn how they could do a better job on LinkedIn outreach, as we were sort of seen as the experts who got there with producing all the content.
You're crushing communities. You then say, I want to reach the US, and you say, how do we do this? So you go on a podcast tour. How do you convince 100 podcast hosts to have you on live?
The real...
Don't say you made friends with them.
No, the real story there is that I started to build brand only 2 years ago, right? So I was a no-no as well the first couple of years after we started Expandi. And I remember I hired an agency, and they really need to do so much effort to get me in any podcast. Sometimes they even needed to pay for it. And that was a real struggle, especially in the first 2 years. after it, now due to all the brand we built, that I tried to share our growth stories, built in public. It seems quite unique for a very small bootstrap Dutch startup. So now it's a whole different story.
Quick takeaway for you guys on this, if you want to copy what Stefan did here, the scope that you would give a Fiverr freelancer, you want to do with talent is website scraping. Anytime you have your own podcast, Apple requires that you list the email with the podcast as part of their protocol for publishing the podcast. You can pay a Fiverr freelancer that's good at data scraping to go build a list of all the emails from the podcasts in your industry, and then don't send a spam email, but reach out one by one with very curated, custom, individual one-on-one messages. And once you get 2-3 of these, then you can use those to elephant bump your way. Hey, we were on these 2, we should be on yours, etc.
Yeah, that's what the agency did in the beginning as well. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, good stuff. Let's keep moving forward here. How do you go from 8 million of revenue to 10 million of revenue? And do you think that happens? What do you think next year you can break 10 million?
Realistically, I think next year. Yeah.
Okay, 10 million.
It will be a matter of time, and a lot of things change. But when we started, we built a tool out of our own need. And it was mainly, as I mentioned before, focused to solve our own problem as a previous agency owner. So that was our main ICP. But due to all the demand and the growth we realized and the brand we've built, we attracted tons of other types of customers. So our self-service stream, which is at the moment 600K MRR per month, became our biggest revenue stream.
Sorry, just to be clear, you said your self-service, no-touch sales-led motion has driven today 600K of MRR.
Correctly, yeah. And our tool was maybe not ready to go mainstream for other types of audiences than our main ICPs, as we had no onboarding. We sucked in explaining them what to do. We were really worse in helping them to activate a product. So all these things, we built out a really proper roadmap, or at least my technical co-founder Glenn was in the lead for that. That's the first thing he touched based on, and we improved already all these things. We see a 10% increase in a couple of metrics already. And the next thing is that we need to build out more stickiness. And we want to do that with native integrations our audiences use. So let's say a smart lead, the instant leads, the RB2Bs, because they also have a churn problem and they need to find ways for their audiences to follow up, for example. But also Clay, everybody's talking about Clay. So yeah, we also will go that direction. And that's one of the things that we will do to build out more stickiness, keep people longer, and increase our revenue.
Clay is fresh off a fairly large round of funding. They're looking for ways to drive both organic and inorganic growth. Have you had open conversations there with the management team?
Not with the management team. It seems quite hard to engage with them, or at least with the right people. We are now in a stage that we aim for a two-way integration. We prepared everything on our end, and now we need to showcase them what we've done and what workflows you are able to build with it. So we hope by next month we can make next steps with them.
8 million of ARR. If someone offered you 5x, so 40 million all cash upfront today, do you sell the business?
Definitely.
You would take the deal.
Yeah.
I love that. So you never know what they're going to say. Sometimes they say, yes, I would never do it. Sometimes they say, I'm doing it. Round of applause. Take the money. Take the money. And so that's great. So maybe I went in too hard. What about 4x?
4x.
Will we ever?
Dirk is in the room, right? Dirk.
will we ever see a Lemlist Expandi merger?
We not discovered it yet, but it could make sense. Yeah.
Who was the last person that approached you about acquisition?
It are mainly bankers who want to be in touch with us, but we are very good friends with Dirk from SaaS Group, but just in a friendly relationship, and we never spoke actually about buying Expandi or
Dirk, what would you pay for a business like this?
He told me 2 or 3x.
That's interesting. I mean, I do wonder though, for buyers, like whether it's a SaaS group or anybody else, you know, do you come across buyers that say, look, we love the business, but the LinkedIn risk is just too big? What if they shut you off?
I think during our journey, before we started building the product, as a founders, we were aware that we were building something what was, to be honest, a bit gray, not illegal or forbidden by law, but if you look at just black and white, at that time point, against LinkedIn's terms and policies. So we never, as a founders, thought that we were even possible or ever possible to sell it, for example. During our journey and our growth and the people who engaged with us and let us believe that it was possible and it was such an interesting growth story, we started to believe it ourselves. But maybe sometimes you lose track of the reality. But I think it's definitely possible to sell it, but yeah, we have the platform dependence. And if people will really look close into the business, maybe the valuation will not be the 5x you mentioned due to all these platform dependence things. Although I can also give 100 motivations why I think that we are here to stay, because LinkedIn has two main problems. They have over 1 billion users. And their core problems are that they don't want their users to spam each other. And they also struggling with educating their users, because 95% of all these billion users, they have literally no clue how to leverage the platform to get the results. You can say and have your opinion about whatever you want about the tools like Expandi, but we are definitely not abusing these rules. So I think it's worth at some point a discussion, because we're enabling people, we're educating people, we don't allow people to spam in the tool, and we learn them the tricks, and they are all in the direction LinkedIn wants their users to go. So yeah.
We're out of time, but I want you to just address this in under 60 seconds. I always like to see when a company's at certain stages what their org chart looks like, because it doesn't lie. It tells you what the company is focused on. So like what you see here are basically 55 full-time employees. I assume the things that are circled with dots, those are hires you have yet to make, or are those contractors?
There are also some contractors.
Okay, so like these ones up here that are dotted, those are ones that are hired already, or contractors?
Yeah, every position is hired. Yeah.
They're already hired. Okay, so 55 FTEs at 8 million AR is about $137,000 of revenue per employee, but you're profitable, right?
Yeah, we have an EBITDA of 2 million plus.
Okay, so your salaries then must be, there has to be enough margin between revenue per employee and the salary for you to make that 2 million of EBITDA, right? Where are you hiring most of these folks?
Yeah, the funny thing is that we capture more than 50% of our revenue from the States, and we don't have any physical presence there, and we do not even have one single colleague with a US nationality or who's living in the States. But aside from that, it's mainly Europe.
Mainly Europe.
Yeah.
Mainly
Yeah.
Europe.
Yeah.
Well, guys, again, incredible story here. He's a man of many passions now. Soccer club potentially happening, but bootstrapped over the past 4, 5, 6 years, expanding from no revenue to 3 million up to 8 million, and plans to get to 10 million. Basically driven mainly from organic inbound, 2,000 new trials per month, 600 get activated, 100 new customers per month. Now continuing to scale across these 9 growth tactics on his way to 10 million bucks of revenue. Any buyers in the room he would sell for 40 million cash all up front. I get a 2% cut on that. Give it up for Stefan at Expandi.
Thank you, Nathan.
That was great. That was awesome, man.